The desert is a good place to dry out.
Especially in our rainy season right now. Down here in Guatemala, it's very, very wet.
And I mean that in the most loving of ways.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, as we're that voice in the desert, we're also truly finding our own voice in a more powerful way.
Well, and recognizing that when we hold, I always go to the Gandhi quote at that point, which is, even if you are an army of one, the truth is the truth. And the reality is that when we free ourselves, as you have so beautifully done, and as Shri and I have also tried to do in our journey, when we free ourselves to say it is about the work, it is about the service, it is about the message, and to trust that divine flow absolutely, then the beauty of the synergies in this time are really starting to come together. Because one of the things that we've noticed, and I suspect you've noticed as well, is that we're really inviting the planet to move into the spirit of cooperation versus competition, and that this is part of the unified energy of oneness, that the infinite abundant universe is truly available for all when we start releasing more and more of these paradigms of density. And I know we've experienced, and I'd love to hear your perceptions on this, we've certainly experienced that this is touching all aspects of the world. This is not limited to any one area. Everyone is needing to look at the spirit of cooperation versus competition, and in every manner that it expresses.
I actually some years ago mapped out a little bit like a Fibonacci sequence, actually, but it's the stages of evolution and how life changes from one to the other, where you have tribalism, which is uniformity. Then you've got the codependence, which is diversity within uniformity, and so on. Then you get diversity, which is the competitiveness, you're saying. And the next stage is unity within diversity, supported diversity, and the contribution of the many to a goal of oneness. And so on. And there's actually 8 of these social, and it's even in relationship. It's the way we grow up. So I cannot agree with you more.
And, the irony, I think, is that people are habituated to measuring the outer world, meaning looking for confirmation in the outer world, when that is exactly the opposite of what will give them their confirmation until they've done their inner work, and then you can see it out there.
Well, and that's part of the beauty of this moment. A lot of you are aware of the fact that we tried to have show in September, and due to some things, the first time ever, we had some situations where I love the timing of right now, that this is the moment we're coming together to chat about this, because there's such an extraordinarily beautiful dynamic at work on the planet right now. And globally, the energy is just uplifting. As you always say, Shri, you can't play your way off the game board. It's time to lift.
Absolutely. And speaking of time to lift, it's time for a quick station break. So we want to invite all our listeners to bring a hand to your heart, take a deep breath, and simply be present. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back. We are delighted to be with you now.
We truly are. And what a special show. We're in the middle of this extraordinary time frame as far as the October experience of living here on planet Gaia. We are in the midst of this beautiful conversation on oneness with our very special guest, Almine. And I hope you've been with us for the first half of the show. If not, you guys make sure you grab it in archives. And remember that all of our shows are posted as video about 4 days after the show is aired on audio at our YouTube channel, Official Shri and Kira. So grab us on the video, check back for the archives. But this is a show you're going to want to listen to many times over. Put it in that iPod.
The theme of oneness, and as we started the show, we were talking a little bit about allness as the balancing
the yin-yang energy.
Well, the one thing that I really love about that symbol, the yin-yang symbol, is when we first look at it, you see the kind of the two tadpoles.
The contrast, the tadpoles. You're so cute.
Black and white dancing together, and it looks like
people say that's you and I, baby.
Hey, which color are you?
Well, I don't know, but we won't go there.
We'll take turns.
We'll do that later.
However, a little deeper that symbol, we see that within the dark side, there is a little circle of white.
Always.
And within the white, there's a little circle of the dark. And you could say the seeds are planted in both halves of duality.
Absolutely.
Well, when we transcend the seeds of darkness and the seeds of contrasting light, we move into another zone of opportunity, another zone of unification. And Almine, I want to use this as a little segue for you to share with us a bit about your teachings around oneness, because it seems to me that so many people are using their lovely brains to try to comprehend something that is really beyond the brain's capacity to knit together. So if you'd kindly speak to that, we'd love to share.
Yes, I'm happy to do that. In the last years, what the main purpose has been of much of the tools, of which the Calendar of Oneness is one of it, but many of the tools that came in was to organize the accessing of the 7 levels of life through the 7 perspectives, the perspective of healing through remembered oneness, the perspective of metaphysics, all these different ways of looking at life. They're like 7 paths up a mountain. And I rotated through them, one each year, for 14 years. And the goal was to put in order the interaction we have with our external world and to take responsibility for what manifests there. And what you mentioned before I even came on the show today is this issue of judgment. You cannot really get beyond the dualistic separation, egoic life until that is let go. So when you let judgment go and you've mastered and put into order your interaction with your world so that, victimization and so on has been dropped by the wayside, you go into oneness. And so for the year following, especially since the Calendar of Oneness, which is the calendar for oneness, whereas the Mayan calendar was the calendar to guide separation consciousness. So since the 13th of February, I have been very much focused on the fluid flow of time as oneness. But in recent months, I have begun to understand, first of all, why what you said, how important oneness is for our journey, why it's that important. Part of it is that if you look at oneness, it is in fact the only time when you live it, the only time that an 8th chakra opens. We work from the 7 chakras, which is the masculine. Its shape is a little bit like the Christian cross. It's got the 4 plus the 3. But the balanced oneness is the equilateral cross, like our indigenous people use. And it uses 8 chakras. And this 8th chakra, which is the turquoise chakra, and native people still have a vague memory that it's on the high heart, hence they wear their turquoise there. They say it's where the earth and sky meets, but it is where the internal space and external space of our experience meets. So it's an extremely important point for us to move into that which is beyond. And if you look at oneness, what is so glorious about it is that, in fact, its energy source is cost-effective. You have more energy produced than you expend. If you look at the society around us, it's falling apart. Because in egoic self, in the separation consciousness, the principle of inertia causes that you lose energy beyond what you are expending. So you put beyond what you're getting. So you put your energy out, you're putting out 10 units, you're only getting back 8. And eventually it must run down, which then forces the world to go into their oneness, which is more of an inner experience of life. But this 8th chakra is our journey into allness. Oneness is still a massive reality of great beauty, but it is the opposite of separation. So it's still an opposite. And if you value one opposite more than the other, it brings a virility to the growth of that which you reject as the right to exist. So there is the joining of the one expressing as the many that creates the allness, to get to the allness, you have to go through oneness, because oneness has the 8th chakra, which is that door to everything.
Wonderfully said. And, one of the things that I think so many people dance with as their discernment grows is the difference between living in the heart and living in what I might call the ascended heart.
Well, right. Well, we refer to that as the ascended heart. And, something else that you mentioned that I wanted to just take a moment and share with and maybe evolve a little more was when you mentioned about how, for example, the some of the native people still remember the turquoise when they weren't on the high heart, is the, I don't want to use the word manipulated stream of ancient energy, but it's what happens after the myth becomes mythologized, that so many of the quote unquote belief structures that are being held onto as real are actually the illusion that is binding people to the experience of the chaos rather than freeing themselves to the blessing of the oneness. And I'm smiling. I remember, Sri, you and I, we had an appearance, maybe it was in San Francisco, I forget, it was many, many years ago, where we were presenting some information that was certainly not very popular at the time because it flew in the face of what people wanted to popularize. Yet, sure enough, later on, many people came to realize that if we just relax and expand our paradigm, true growth comes in. And so I'm wondering how you're navigating that shift, because people are needing to soften the brain, soften the role of the brain, and dive more into this beautiful hive heart, dive more into this turquoise energy of the ascended chakra.
To the next.
Exactly. And this is where so many beautiful beings on the planet right now are judging their own reality. They're judging the concepts that they've been taught, rather than, another word Almine used that I love was the victim consciousness. This victim consciousness is actually being supported by the planetary thought body. And so when we have energies, when we have invitations, when we have symbols that can assist us to break free of the mind, we're really being invited to release the grip that the illusion has on us.
My sister, I have for absolute years, every single book that I've written, and I think I have something like 26 books now, in English at least. Mm-hmm. Every single book that I've written has as its major underlying theme, because they've had different topics, but sure, underlying theme, the removal of belief systems.
Yes.
Because we can never be free while we have these holy cows around us that mm-hmm. become our prison bars.
I love you.
Oh, would it be okay if I say I believe you?
Oh. That's so sweet.
I just know that I'm giving you a standing ovation right now, and my heart is huge around you. I'm so grateful you are on the planet.
And also, I just want to say, we need to have mercy on ourselves.
Absolutely.
Because our minds are ways of patterning reality, and the egoic mind is so filled with fear-based energies and beliefs that as evolutionary opportunities are presented, the ego embraces these with the old underlying needs. That is, a new dogmatic system. Let's substitute a new age system for the old religion.
Yes.
And so yes.
So,
go ahead.
Sorry, did I interrupt?
Not at all.
I just wanted to say that we spoke earlier about the individual will being able to co-create our environment with infinite intent. That is not something that comes in spiritual immaturity. It is something that you grow into. And you're saying, we have to be kind to ourselves about the issue of the egoic self, and absolutely so, because it's been our incubation chamber. It's been the eggshell. And it's only when the little chicken's head pops out that he realizes he's part of a greater whole, which means the oneness. But then, at some point, when you realize that beyond oneness and beyond separation lies the integration of both opposites, which I believe is what you're calling allness, and the allness that is beyond that is the spiritual maturity in which you can truly contribute the unique perspective of each individual, like the facet of a massive gem through which the light of the infinite shines. And that is when in complete harmony with infinite intent, you may bring your unique perspective to bear and choose which of the fluid roads of time you wish to live out that infinite intent.